Hi, I'm Mason Marangella. I am the owner of a guitar pedal company called VertexEffects, and we make pedals for some of the finest guitar players in the world. And I've been a avid guitar player since I was a little kid. Just look at young Mason here back in 1988. And since I was 18 years old, I have been a Les Paul enthusiast. In fact, the very first Les Paul I ever bought was in 2003. It was a 1960 Les Paul Classic, and I got it for $1,200, if you can believe it. And the journey didn't stop there. I continued to accumulate over 20 Les Pauls in my lifetime. You can see some of them here. And I was even lucky enough to have master builder and guitar restoration guru Joe Reggio do this conversion Les Paul for me. If you're interested in learning about that, I have a full video on it above. This is all to say that I know the Les Paul well. I know its assets, its limitations, and the things that you need to look for in order to find one that is a great example of this instrument. So with that in mind, having accumulated over 2 decades of experience with this instrument, I'm going to rate every American-made, mid-range price point LP-style guitar in hopes that you may find the perfect instrument to add to your arsenal. All of these instruments are on loan from Sweetwater, a sponsor of this video, with exception to the Heritage, which was sent directly to me from Heritage. All of these have gone through Sweetwater's 55-point inspection, and then the Heritage comes with the factory setup. Lastly, all the links that you are going to see listed below are all affiliate links. I will receive a small commission should you decide to buy an instrument based on the recommendations today. Eastman SB59. This is the most affordable of the guitars that we're reviewing today. And it has a fairly decent flame top. You know, I don't really care that much about the flame top, to be honest. Most of the old real vintage LP guitars, they're all over the place. They're not always book matched or anything like that. But nevertheless, if you're a top guy, don't get any ideas. This one's pretty decent. Got the vintage style clousson, the little tulip tuners, pretty standard stuff. It's got a pretty nice, it looks like a nice piece of mahogany. Fretwork, I think, is pretty dang good. Knobs looks all kind of what you would expect. Has an upgraded ebony fretboard, which is cool. Normally, these would come with rosewood, and if you wanted to have ebony, it would either have to be a special order back in the old days, or you'd have to get a Les Paul custom. But I think that's a cool thing. I think that the pickups, they sound really great. And it looks like it's actually one-piece mahogany. When I'm just kind of looking at the back here, this looks like it's one piece. That is unusual. Not all the companies will do that. Sometimes they've pieced together a few different pieces of wood to make a full body. So I think that those are all things that are great. things I don't like about it, it does feel a little bit cheap. And especially having given all these guitars a good once through over the last week, I can see why it's slightly cheaper. However, I would say if we are comparing it to some of the lower price stuff, Epiphone, etc., this is certainly better than that. I just don't think it quite rises to the level of the better guitars in this price range. So I would say, yes, it's affordable. It may not be the best of these guitars, but it is also the lowest price point of each of these guitars. So I think that that is all something to be considered when thinking about Eastman. Certainly not a bad guitar by any means. Next up, we have the PRS S2 594 McCarty, and this actually is probably the one with the most modern playability. This thing is a race car. It is easy to get around, very simple to play, fretwork, the whole, just like the action, just the feel of this thing is very modern. Nitro lacquer finish. That's always a great thing. It ages much better than polyurethane. I know all of the tone wood deniers talk about, you know, how that finish doesn't make any difference. And I don't know, maybe they're right. But boy, it definitely looks better when it ages than poly, which just comes off in big chunks. So I'm glad that it's nitro. I think that that's definitely something to shout out. The other thing that's really cool about this is it does offer these push-pulls where you can get some interesting tones out of it. I wouldn't necessarily say single coil, but it gives you the ability to sort of thin out the humbucker, and that's kind of a cool thing. I'll just give you a quick example of what that looks like. So for example, here is the bridge humbucker. And now here it is in split. Now going to the neck. Split. And then middle. Now back to humbucker and middle. So doesn't sound like a Strat, but I think it's a nice option to have. Again, sometimes the trick with any humbucker with certain amps is just getting it thinned out a little bit, and it certainly does that. I don't think anybody's going to mistake it for a Strat. So be that as it may. So the things I don't like about it, this is the only guitar of the bunch that didn't come with a hard shell case. Now, some people may prefer gig bags, that may be you, and then maybe you're like, that's great, it already takes care of something. I just think that if you're gonna spend $2,000 plus, you should be expecting a hard case. It doesn't come with one, that's a little disappointing. I think, as I sort of alluded to before, this guitar doesn't really have an identity. It's not really a Les Paul, it's not really a Strat. I have a DGT that's sitting right over here, and it doesn't really remind me of that either. So I don't know if you looked at this and you might have thought, okay, it's an LP style thing. I don't know that it really sounds like that. It sounds kind of too modern for an LP style guitar, and it doesn't really sound like anything else. I don't know. Maybe that was the intention, but The way that it's being sort of grouped by most dealerships, it seems to be marketed to more of the PRS player that wants to get into kind of the LP type thing. I don't know that it really does that. Next up, we have the Heritage Standard 2 H150. Look at that top. I'm not gonna lie, this is the best guitar of the bunch. It is the best playing, the easiest to play, the most vintage sounding, has the most options, has the most upgraded hardware. Everything about this guitar screams custom shop, but it is at a price point that is standard for American-made LP, single-cut, solid body, set neck guitars. This thing is unreal. I am blown away that it is the price that it is, because I have the custom shop upgraded version over here. I'll show you a picture of it. And playability-wise, this is the same guitar. In fact, this guitar is the lightest also of the bunch. Now, I understand that it is weight relieved, which helps in keeping it lighter weight, but sometimes the weight relief stuff just sounds like trash. It sounds like some weird hollow body that's trying to make itself a solid body. This sounds like an old guitar. It sounds incredible. So pros on this thing, I think it definitely has to be just the fit and finish of it is unbelievably good. The fretwork, the setup, this is coming directly from the factory. It didn't even get the 55-point inspection that all the other guitars did, and yet it is still killer. Stays in tune beautifully. The pickups are incredibly usable. It's got a coil tap feature. I'll just show you real quick. So here's neck pickup with humbucker mode. And then this is with the split, which is just going between series parallel. Going into the middle position, here's it with, let's put it in humbucker mode first. Now split. Now bridge, humbucker. Now with the series parallel, coil tap, whatever it is. I think similarly to the PRS, nobody is going to think that this is a single coil. Again, it's not doing a traditional coil tap, it's doing a series parallel thing, and that's been used a lot, especially like in 80 Super Strats. It sounds great. It's a good way to kind of make the intensity of the humbucker smaller, which can be great to fit this guitar in with other instruments or certain parts. If you're playing in a studio and you just need the guitar to be a little bit smaller and thinner, it's certainly a vibe and a thing that is very, very useful. I think just the pickups alone on this thing, and these are Heritage's own pickups, they're not going to a third party. They sound really, really good. Like, these would be worthy of just taking out of this and putting into another guitar. If they sold these separately, I would certainly consider buying some. They sound that good to me. cons on this thing, I mean, it's kind of a stretch. I would say that this has the smallest neck of the bunch. It's a 60s style, neck, and it's smaller for sure. As somebody that plays Strats as well, it's a pretty easy transition if you're playing Strats and Les Pauls a lot, which is kind of the two primary guitars that I'm using. It makes it a little bit easier of a transition, but I could see where some purists might be like, well, it's not as big as my 59 or my 58 or whatever. So I'm sure there's going to be those people out there that are going to not like it on that merit, but it's a very comfortable neck. There's nothing that stands out to it, to me, as being problematic or kind of pushing me in a way that feels uncomfortable. So very comfortable. I think it's a good neck. I could just see where some people might not like that. I think the second thing is, although I had no tuning stability or anything like that, they look like Grover tuners from the outside. They're Heritage's brand. I understand you would want to keep like everything with under the Heritage umbrella on the guitar hardware wise, so I can understand why they did that. I could see where some people might be like, why didn't they just do Grovers? It's like a known thing. But the truth is Grovers aren't that great anymore. It's not like they were in the 80s or the 70s. So, these are probably just fine. Again, I had no issue whatsoever. I'm just, again, predicting what some people might criticize. So next up is the Gibson Les Paul Standard, USA made. Now, pros on this, it's a Gibson. It's going to have the best residual value of any of these. If you bought it, you decided to sell it later, it says Gibson on it, that's always going to help you on the used market. Although I don't know how good of a claim that is, given that I think Gibson is not always making the best stuff these days comparatively to other people out there on the marketplace. With that said, I think that other things that I like about this, I think the pickups are probably the hottest of any of them that are out there, although I would say they look like they're pretty high comparatively to the other ones, and that could account for some of that. Again, we're going with either factory setup or whatever was provided by Sweetwater with their 55-point inspection. They are very woolly sounding, which is something that I usually attribute to kind of PAF style pickups. So they definitely have that going for them. They're a little woolly, although I noticed sometimes trying to get clean sounds out of them, they had a tendency to maybe break up a little earlier than some of the other pickups, which was maybe not as desirable when you're trying to keep it clean. But when you're digging in and doing some of the other stuff with the kind of the more dirtier stuff, it sounds great. So things I didn't like about this one, it is the heaviest of all of the bunch, and I picked the lightest weight American-made Les Paul Standard that I could find on the Sweetwater website, and it is still heavier than the other instruments. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a bad guitar, but usually the sweet spot for Les Pauls that I look for is in kind of the sub 9-pound category, and really not much below maybe 8.5 or 8.25. When it gets too light, it kind of stops sounding like a Les Paul. So I kind of look in that range. This one is still fairly heavy, I think, maybe heavier than I'd like if I'm being picky. I also think that it has kind of the most underwhelming fretwork and setup of the bunch. And to me, being that it is the most expensive of any of them that we played, I would expect it to be at least on par with sort of the middle of the road, if not better. And I would just say that the feel on the fretboard is a little weird. This is like one of the lightest colored rosewood fretboards that I've seen. And I don't know if there's a reason for that, but it seems like most of the other ones are able to get a deeper, more traditional looking fretboard for their LP style guitars, meaning Gibson should at least be able, I think, to replicate that. I'd also had, you can't see this because we're tuning between every playing example, but it had the most tuning and stability of any of the guitars today as well. I had to really focus on getting it perfectly in tune. And although that may be something that could be addressed in the setup, again, if it wasn't able to be easily addressed by Gibson before shipping it, or Sweetwater when doing the 55-point inspection, it could mean that there are some other QC issues here that might be deeper rooted that can't be easily addressed in a setup. So again, that's speculation. I'm just communicating what I'm seeing in front of me with this particular guitar. So my pick for today, if you hadn't guessed already, is certainly the Heritage Standard 2 H150. This thing blew me away. It is a great weight, although it is weight relief, so that means that there are some spots where they've chambered out sections to make it slightly lighter weight. In spite of that, it plays great. It sounds incredible. It has the series parallel via push-pull. Very usable. Sounds great. Not going to replace your Strat, but is very usable if you want to thin it out and you kind of want to mimic some of those more single coil tones, if you need a workhorse guitar where you have one instrument and it kind of needs to cover a lot of ground. I can't say enough good things about the Heritage. I'm continually impressed by them. And again, I have a custom shop version of an H150, and I was shocked that there was literally no difference in playability between those two guitars, despite my custom shop being double the price of this instrument. If you like this video and you want to support what we're doing, the easiest way to do that is to buy one of our pedals. Our company is called Vertexeffects. We make a lot of different devices, from overdrives to boosts to buffers for your pedal board. And if you buy those on the common sites, Sweetwater, Amazon, Reverb, they're all available there. Just type in Vertexeffects and you'll find stuff from us. And by buying the pedals, it in turn supports us in what we're doing on the channel. Also, I offer one-to-one consultations, something that I call tone consults. And you can head over to therigdr.com and you can book an appointment with me where we have a one-on-one conversation through Zoom and can talk about your rig and how to optimize it based on your goals. We also have a Patreon community that you can join with like-minded folks that are into guitar gear like this, pedals, amps, pedal boards, all that good stuff. You also get exclusive access and even Q&As for artists that we're interviewing, so you get to be ahead of everybody else, should that be something that you're interested in. We also have a masterclass that just came out on Teachable and is currently 50% off, and it's all about how to optimize your pedal board signal path. This is not only for mono and stereo rigs, but also for ampless rigs if you're a person that uses an amp sim or some sort of modeling device in order to facilitate your amplifier sounds. Again, 50% off over on Teachable. That will be linked in the description. And last, if you want some sick merch like the shirt that I'm wearing here today, you can check that out in the description below. That's on Fourth Wall. We have a bunch of different shirt options available and some sweatshirts as well. And by purchasing some of the merch, it directly supports us in turn. Thank you again so much for watching today. Again, I'm Mason Marangella from Vertexeffects, and that was our roundup on all the mid-level price point American-made LP-style guitars, minus the Eastman, but still deserves to be in the conversation. Check out the Heritage Standard 2 H150. Great guitar. We'll see you on the next one.